Well, here I am back again. I guess I have to go all the way back to Alabama about being Minister Lewis Dixon. It's like, my life has gotten to a point where I need help, and I guess it's not new. It's not something that I think is unusual about me not receiving help, but I just have to keep trying, basically, in order to get done what I need to try to get done. And I keep saying over and over again, I'm a veteran from the Vietnam era. Uh, I don't have any warrants out for me. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I have a 13-year-old daughter in Havenwyck Hospital in Auburn Hills, Michigan, and I need help in getting her out. And I've tried, everything I know how to, based on, but I don't know if it's being done to me because of politics, but it's I'm a Trump supporter, based on the fact where I don't think I had no other option than to go than to vote and try to get in a new administration since the Obama administration came about, based on how from a moral point of view, basically cut through the chase. It's like uh, we we searched around for who is changing the teachings of Christ or how where we've been through all that. So we're back to the point of is America, is there freedom of religion in America still? Why are we being persecuted for believing in a way you were born? We were born Baptist Christian, black Baptist Christian. I guess you could say Second Baptist, but we was born Second Baptist. Now and 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 it was the head of the church, uh, Jesus Christ. There's always been a controversy about the color of Christ, but not about his philosophy, not about his well, how you say the laws of Christ or the teachings of Jesus Christ. And now we live in a world where I guess we are, well, not guess, I see where we are attempting to change stuff, but my whole point is I have a 12-year-old, 13-year-old daughter in Havenwyck Psychiatric Hospital and never been in any type of mischief before. Yeah, but she's been in some mischief for the last year or so and a half, but she's been, investigated by Child Protective Services. And she just have a child with problems. And I kind of understand the problems from a fatherly point of view. But I see where the system is just because she's sympathetic or confused with all this stuff about the bathroom issue from one extreme to the other. There's a lot of things going on, and I don't think she's being treated fairly from she's born Baptist Christian, so she at least needs to know more about the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, that's basically what she was born out of. But I know a lot of people that well, I don't really know how they get to where they are, but I'm just speaking in terms of for her, and I think that she's too young to be. The system is very unfair to her. I've always taught her to believe in the system, because I didn't want her growing up disliking the police or just disliking authority. But authority is just not authority now. It's just despicable, really. Authority, and especially under the Obama administration, when it comes down to young blacks being confused as to how to be raised or what type of therapy they really need, especially with this stuff about homosexuality. But they're never. But when people are going against Christ, even like the Pope like, people of all, they're trying to make one thing into another, which I don't see nobody paving no streets with gold that's doing this. We still, dealing with potholes, with asphalt. So things ain't going according to what you call. If it was all that power and being against Christ, then why all these problems? Why is it that you know you, you well we addicted to what you call just terrible news. I mean, reporting of wars. Very few. Well, that's what we're. That's why we need what one thing we need at Havenwyck Hospital is I just need some help to try and just. She's a 13-year-old Baptist, born Christian. She just in some trouble, but they're using very adult I guess it's homosexual propaganda tools to make her not even make her resent her own birth. It's like it must be something to it because it's done so quickly, but not so quickly because we find out that it came through a teacher through Common Core. We find out more about just she left. It's just something we just want that to be investigated. While they're intimidating us about like as if it's something that she's I don't know how to describe it, but they are forcing her to take psychic medicine. So and this have happened in the system. I heard about stuff like that years ago when all these children on SSI and that's how all this stuff come about. It's just something that people are just fabricating in order to further politicize sickness. Maybe that's real. Maybe we just need to. We need to really just, just like I guess Mr. Trump streamlined the Airplane One, Air Force One, and Air Force Two. Just now, I guess you need to streamline the medical system. You ain't gonna have no type of health care with so much fraud going on in it. Things that are just so negative. People are just it's just abusing. That's abusive doctors. How could a person that's so valuable, it be so terrible with just wasteful spending? I guess you could say. But you would think they would be better doctors, but I don't know. It's just you can't do nothing with a doctor, and you just got to know how far to go with a doctor, I guess. But it's terrible, even with the VA. It's not everything. I'm a veteran. Everything I've heard about what's wrong with the VA, that's not what's wrong with. What's wrong with the VA is people not even addressing just primary medical care. It's just people set up like it's some type of welfare. They act like they're some type of welfare, and the veteran is some type of welfare recipient. And so that's pretty much how the quality of that goes. It don't matter medicine. You can't get the medicine that you need, and if you get the medicine, it's just always something. I've been trying to be that. And I was receiving a check from the VA from the Vietnam era. It was a 10% disability check, service connected, and like now, I can't even get that. But they still rated some type of way. But in other words, they just it's kind of like it's a benefit to it, but it's terrible when it just comes down to how do they single out different vets in order to just treat worse than others. But that's just a way of life. I wish I could just get my check from the VA back. Well, that would straighten out my entire situation when it comes down to just extra money. But that's why. But then I need money now to get a lawyer to try to see if I can get my daughter out of Havenwyck Hospital. And it's, just for something like that to be going on with children, 13 years old. She's never been around people. She's a virgin, and she's like, and I don't want to be telling her business, but it's just terrible that we got stuff like that goes on in America when we're responsible that stuff like that don't go on in third world countries, and we can't stop this at home. And we so naive to think that that's just what supposed to be something cool, or what is that? Then we're saying our children, a lot of young people, they just seem to be full of whatever. But it's just that they need to slow down. I say, or try to pick up some type of value system. That's the only thing that I think saved this country so far. I don't think it's the recklessness that saved this country. I think it's the few values that still drifting around. I don't know why everybody got so much against Vladimir Putin. I just found out he is the richest man in the world. He might be working on peace, for as they know. How would a person know anything? They ain't never had no money. And they talking to a person that is the richest person in the world. I thought he was one. Like a welfare politician. Really, like they got like America's full of. Somebody trying to pay a light bill or trying to work a deal because he feels like he might go broke next week. So you wouldn't understand nothing that this person do anyway, because you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is to be wealthy. When you ain't got to think about money, I cannot imagine if I didn't have to think about money, what would I think about? And right now, I need money in order to try to just support my own daughter in America about something that's just it's just unbelievable. But that's how if you ain't got no law in a land, how can it needs to be a law. It needs to be some type of law. There needs to be some type of law in place for some things, especially children. And so, when a country ain't got a child, but mine, she have a lawyer. Her lawyer making sure that her rights are violated. And I'm talking about that's sick. That's really sick. Right? And then, why should she have to choose what's being, why should that be done? It just makes life complicated, really, even for the child. But it's just terrible that it's being done. But I think I just think someone should trust me and my wife, or trust whoever, to just do what we say we're going to do and let it be, because it's just something that really, I can't. Well, it's a lot of stuff that's going on, but it's all because it seems like to do with the Democrats. See, we was born Democrats too, but we kind of had to let that go. We kind of had to let the Democratic Party go. They became independents because it just wasn't the same interest. And so I guess that could be, I don't know what that is, but I think it's like most of the people we have had opposition from is people that don't believe in, make a big thing out of, say that, well, we are not moral-minded people if we don't believe in homosexuality. I don't really know how to, how it comes about, or what significance is it. But I just don't see. I just think if I were like that, I would probably try to go to reparative therapy, I guess they call it. But they say that's kind of insulting to do that. So evidently, I don't know no more about it than the fact that no more what the Bible says and being I don't think what would have happened in the last 10 years would have happened because man probably would not have allowed it. Because I did not believe it was so many people in different positions, and I didn't think it would have mattered until I experienced what it is to stand before a district attorney judge that's a homosexual, and he charging you falsely. And he charging you. He charging you because he told you he charging you because of how you teach about the Bible. This is what he's talking about in his chambers. So it's not like I could claim it's something else. And to this day, it seems to be like a lot going on with you know uh, black people are subject to a lot of their leaders are black homosexuals in very influential positions, and they by them not being good negotiators, they just make a mockery out of the whole civil rights situation. We just and so now that I guess uh, we we have to we have to just keep believing in God. Like that's what really kept. I don't know what black people was thinking about, but that's what I believe kept us afloat. It had to be because to this day, it seems like we still our own worst enemy. But we, well, we are in a situation where we just really need help because of this situation with our daughter. And it's kind of logical and it's kind of cultural. But I know that she's worth it because she'll be a good advocate for children that struggling with these same problems. And they are all over the place, They're all over our school system. It's just, they're not being treated fairly unless there's something going on. They trying to think of something. It's cool, It's cool. That's the first. It's like they say marijuana is a gateway drug. Uh, the teachings about uh, the different about these teachings about homosexuality is a gateway to something that is very bizarre, and there's evidence of it in the culture as we speak. You know, because how can a person, if you're a judge, why can't you dispense justice? It seems like, especially if you're not, if you're, it's a very prestigious position. You're a judge, you're a lawyer, and they do work. In other words, and just the whole reason for being a judge is to just work. It's to disenfranchise the male, so he can become more vulnerable to succumbing to, stuff that trying to get along, go to jail, participate in homosexuality, and then go to jail and deal with it's like a situation, and that's like, and it's just, prison is prison. But the main thing about a prison should be a place where a person don't like, because it's not supposed to be a comfort zone. But you should be, like, if you're a man, most thing a man misses in prison is a woman. The biggest thing he misses is a woman, and and it's called the relationships with women. But what would a homosexual miss in prison? What would I miss if I was in a woman prison? If I went to a woman prison as a young person, is it a prison? No. It's like, that's how life has played itself out through the criminal justice system, dealing with not just a black male, black female, but just dealing with people in general, the rehabilitative process. We don't need people who in positions like homosexuals, in positions like, dealing closely with prisoners, and because it's just it's like, well, you got to do whatever you got to do, I guess, but And I guess you can't nurture, but can you nurture a man into being a man? You know, how does men get to think like men and stuff like that? Well, is that something that's inherited or what? But we sure would like for someone to help us get a lawyer. We are accountable for the money, and we just need to get our daughter out of a hospital, which is trying to just drill her into homosexuality from the psychological point about it. I would think so. I would hope that that's all because she's supposed to be, this is the longest she ever stayed not under our roof. And she's 13 years old. And it's just un-American for her to have to choose or to be put in a situation. She hasn't committed a crime. She's been off course for about a year and a half. But at the same time, I just wish, I could get some help in trying to assist her, trying to support her because the hospital is making it difficult. And I can't explain all of it, but I'll talk to you later.